Hey everybody, I ran across something day before yesterday that I want to share with you. I've talked in regards to Ackerman in cars, how important it is, and I run across a situation here that I thought would explain it a lot better. I mean, I'm a show me kind of guy, so I'm going to try to show you here and a little bit about what's going on in the shop. Nothing major, but this showed up, and I think this is pretty important, so I want to share it with y'all. Here goes. My buddy Chris's truck, S10 truck. He's put a racecraft style front end on it. Done a lot of this work himself, and it's really nice. But he's brought it to me because in his business he is so busy he don't have time to finish it, and it's race season. So we're going to try to knock out mounting the front end on this thing real quick for him and mounting his fuel cell radiator. Just some odds and ends. Shouldn't take me but a few days. But I noticed when we were moving it around how difficult this thing steered and turned. So I want to share this with you and try to explain some of this. The front end I like because they've narrowed the rack to fit right. They have the tie rod plane. The tie rod ball is in plane with the upper and lower control arms. It's supposed to be in that line right there, that imaginary line between the pivot point of the lower control arm and the pivot point of the upper control arm. Then it's real difficult on S10 because you can see the angles of the control arms. The lower control arm is angled in towards the front, and then the upper control arm is angled out towards the front. And personally, I think that like this is like the worst front suspension design GM's ever come up with. The S10 trucks are horrible, and I know everybody thinks they want to swap a S10 truck underneath every street rod, but I'm telling you, these things are junk. In my opinion, too heavy a frame for a car. It just doesn't make any sense. You're better off buying like an aftermarket frame from, you know, one of the street rod companies that I've talked about previously, or, you know, building your own. But I mean, it's all about capability. Some guys just don't have that kind of skill depth, but I'm telling you, you're money ahead if you do. Therein, this is what I want to show you. Ackerman. If you look at this front end and the angle of the tie rod versus the ball joint, then you can tell the wheel's tipped out a little bit. I'm going to try to straighten it up if I can. Let's see if I can get it pushed over. There you go. See that? The Ackerman is actually pointing towards the outside of the rear end instead of the front side of the rear end, or the middle of the rear end. The Ackerman is the relationship of the tie rod pivot versus the ball joint pivot, and that line is an imaginary line that's supposed to meet at the center of the rear axle. I've talked about that before, and this is the opposite direction. So therein, what happens when it does that is the wrong tire turns a tighter radius. So in that, I'm going to turn the wheel and show you what I'm talking about. But here goes. Bear with me because I'm going to be wiggling around a little bit. And I'm telling you, Chris has done a fantastic job on this truck. There's a lot of guys out there that can do this type of work, and in their theory or their thoughts, you know, I can do it. You know, it's sort of hard to explain this, but he has all the ability to do this is just as good as I do. But like I say, time is not his friend, so he's having me do it. And the fact that he trusts me to do this, it means a lot to me. So anyways, Ackerman. When you set up Ackerman right, the inside tire, which is this one, is supposed to turn a tighter radius than the outside tire. And as you can see with this, the outside tire is turning sharper than the inside tire. So what happens, especially with a vehicle with a spool in it like this, is it don't want to turn corners. It wants to push against this tire, and I'm telling you, it will tear the tread off the tire. Like one season and these tires will be junk. Race tires are a little bit different. They're softer, you know, less tread. It's not like a street tire, but you'll do the same thing with street tires. You just tear them up. And the reason why I mention this is it's not going straight that's the problem. It's when you get into jam, like you slide this thing sideways and it's not going to steer right. You know, it's going to cause you to, you know, potentially crash. You know, if you get out of shape with this thing, especially at the top end, you hit the brakes and the thing wants to slide or dart or something, yeah, the front wheels are not contacting the ground like they're supposed to. One of them is going to slide, and that means you lose traction on the front end, and that's not a good thing either. So whoever did this front end for Chris, whoever he bought it from, it's I think a copy of a Racecraft. They did a really nice job. It's well built and it's square, everything's super duper here. But yeah, this is something you got to think about. Now the way that I would fix this, and I think Chris is going to do the same, I mentioned it to him, is heat it right through here, just like I did on my Chevy 2, and bend these out as close as you can get them to the wheel to solve some of that problem. You may not solve it all, but you're going to get a lot of it. So that's my thoughts on this one. Like I say, this is something you can actually see, and I wanted to show this to everybody because I know I've talked about Ackerman on my Chevy 2 and everything else. So hopefully that works for you. You guys understand that a little bit better. So, okay, here's what we got going over here. A pile of wheelies here. I wanted you to see this, how I did the brake pedals in it. I had to build a custom brake pedal. You can see that. What this is a piece of 1.25" 120 wall inside, 1.5" 120 wall chromoly, and then this is like a piece of 1" 120 wall that I bent for the pedal. Typically when I make a pedal pad, like this pedal pad here is just 2" flat stock, but I cut 3 inches long and then I bend a 1/2 inch bend in it, and then I will put grippy stuff on this. Then the master cylinder's mounted down there underneath the seat. I'll put a little cover so you can get to that. You know, hopefully you don't need to service that too much, but it's all in there working. Like I say, it's a little car with not much room, so you know you're really limited to what you could do. Like the pedals I buy from UB Machine, they would never work in here, so I had to build a custom pedal. And then the throttle pedal, I usually always build my own. This is a piece of 1/2 inch tubing here, 1/2 inch here that I weld a 3/8 fine thread bolt into, and this is 1/4 inch tubing in the gusset. So, and then this dealio here is highly recommended. This is a pedal stop. This is so when you mash the pedal to the floor, it doesn't bend the throttle shaft in the carburetor. I think I've mentioned that before. I had a friend that become a quadriplegic because of not having something like this. It is adjustable. You just loosen the nuts up and you make it so when it goes wide open it touches on that stop right there, and keeps, like I say, keeps from bending the shaft in the carburetor. If you'll notice here, I've got the stop is offset a little bit, and that's so I can get the pedal off of that bolt right there. If I'd have centered it, I'd have never been able to get the pedal out of the car. And I want to get this stuff chrome, so. But I mean, you can see we got the motor out, so all that's going good. You've seen all the back, and I want to show you this over here. This is how I do like a parachute release and a shut off. This deal here, those are my parachute handles. I build this out of 3/8 tubing right here and attach it where you can get to it real easy. And this is like the electrical shut off, and then this one's the parachute release. So you don't have to look for them when you're in a panic. You just reach over. So I got all that done. And then here comes Jeff to guide me the right direction. So we're going good with that. And then he's been kicking butt on the Vega too. The motor's setting in it, and Jeff has got the mid plate done and the cross member almost done. So we get past this, we're going to jump on that truck and fix it. Okay, thanks for watching.